Hi, I'm Shannon from houseimprovements.com, and today's video I'm going to show you how I built this shed floor right here. So with today's high lumber prices, I had this shed coming up, and I got thinking, well, instead of a conventional floor where I usually would frame it with 2x4s and cover it with 3/4 inch plywood, plywood right now in my area is like over $100 a sheet, so 3/4 inch. So I got thinking, well, I wonder how much cheaper or what the difference would be if I built the floor using 1.5 inch material. So I did some pricing around, and the framed conventional floor that like I usually do, you could see that in my other shed build video, was something like close to $400 for the materials, for the 2x4 framing and the plywood decking. 2x6 or 2x8 solid lumber, enough to do this same 6x12 shed, was right around $250. And then better yet, when I went down to the lumber store, they had a bunch of cull lumber, which ended up being 2x6, and it was 12 feet long, which worked out great. So I cut it in half for my 6-foot shed. So I took a little extra lumber because some of it wasn't great. Most of it had some twists or bends in it, but I was able to make it work here, and I did that for under $200. So when you're talking 400 plus to $200, that's quite a difference. And it's a good solid floor, so I don't think the customer's going to have any problems with that. Save them a bit of money. And anyways, let's watch the video and see how I did this. Okay, so to start out with, I'm using two 4x4 pieces of lumber as the skids underneath the shed. My shed's going to be 6 feet wide by about 12 feet long. I decided that what I'm going to do is I'm going to space my skids 4 feet apart. Okay, so because I'm in the shop today, because weather isn't conducive to do this outside, you'll probably hear the wind howling as the video goes on. Because I'm in the shop anyways, I've got some plywood. It was just easier just to lay a couple pieces of wood between the skids to keep them spaced out. I put a bar clamp on each end, just snugged it up just to kind of keep things from moving around. If I was out on site, I probably would have just cut a couple scrap pieces of 2x4 and done the same thing with them, but because I have plywood, this is what I did. So like anything that's square or rectangular in shape, you can check the true square of your building by measuring the diagonals. If your diagonals are equal, then you're square. Oops. So we've got them equally spaced out and parallel, so I should be able to get them to square up. And I think it's going to be alright because I messed around a bit with this already. Yeah, I'm within about 1/8 of an inch, so I'm going to call it good enough. Okay, so I've got my 4x4 sitting there. My original intentions was to have a third 4x4 in the middle, but with the price of wood these days, I'm just trying to save the client a little bit of money, as we spoke about earlier. I'm eliminating that middle 4x4, and for most people that probably would be fine just like that, unless you're going to drive a garden tractor or something like that in there. You'll get a bit of flex in these 2x6s, but not that much. So I'm going to eliminate the 4x4 in this one. This person doesn't have anything heavy to put in there that they'll be driving in. But what I'm going to do is just screw a scrap of 2x6 down the middle to the bottom, and that'll just help distribute the weight as you walk in there, and it should help keep the flex in the floor to a minimum. So I've already pre-cut all my boards, got them standing over there. I used cull lumber like I had mentioned before to save some costs again. So some of them I had to run through the saw and straighten out edges and that sort of thing, but I've got that all done. And at this point all I need to do is simply lay them down in place and get that squared up. What I did do is I went ahead, some of them I cut it off already, but I went ahead and figured out how much overhang I have, and I put a mark on most of them so that I can kind of line that up on one side and get myself relatively straight to start with. Okay, so I'm just going to start laying them out here, using my mark that I have on them for the overhang as a bit of a guide. And like I said, I'm going to put just some scrappy old 2x6 down the middle. And And that will just take some of the bounce or the flex out of the planks that are being used for the floor. Okay, so I'll just tap that in there for now so that it's there. So when I go to fasten everything together, I don't have to try to get that in there after. So I'm just kind of putting them together snug, but I'm trying not to bump them around too much, and I'll get them all laid out and then we'll square it up. So I'm just going to take a bit of a straight edge and try to flush these up a little bit. Okay, so we should be pretty decent. I've got to shift them all down. A little bit more, just trying to get them flush to the end of my 4x4 skids. That looks better. Pretty straight when I look down the edge there. So I'm just going to see what I have for a diagonal. See if I'm anywhere close to square. I've got 157 3/4 there. And 157.5 there. So I'm a little bit longer on this diagonal than that one, so I'm going to give this side just a little kick. So it looks like I'm looking for about 157 5/8. Should be my happy place. We should be real close there. Let's see what it says. Yep, that should do it. Okay, so we've got our boards all on. We've got ourselves squared up. So now we can start fastening our boards to the 4x4s. But I'm going to snap myself a guideline. Just a straight line with the chalk line right down the middle of the 4x4 so I know where I'm going and it looks somewhat professional. Okay, so there's one. There's another one. And let's give ourselves one right down the middle. So when I go to fasten to those 2x6s that are laying flat, got somewhat of a guide there too. So now I'm going to, because I'm fastening this decking, or this 2x6 isn't pressure treated, but the 4x4s are, so I need to use the appropriate nails. And the tag on the nails reminded me to put my safety glasses on. Okay, so I'm just going to go along and I'm going to start this first board. Oop. And just get it sitting like that. Now, I'm going to let the boards just basically sit where they're sitting, unless I notice a big gap that I want to change or want to try to tighten up. Then I might have to squeeze it with a clamp or a ratchet strap or something. But for right now, I think I'll just go ahead and get one nail in every board and then come back and finish it off. Kind of pushing with my foot to slide them over up tight against the last one. Just going to give them a little kick down this end, tighten things up again. And keep going. Okay, so we've got at least one nail in every board at each end. I'll go back and put a second nail in. And because I'm moving this, I've got to move it obviously, I'm not going to have a shed in this garage. Because I've got to move this and stuff, what I'm going to do, instead of just adding a third nail in the middle with this gun, I'm actually going to put a 4-inch R-Dox in the middle of each board. That's just, so it's just like a spiral type nail. These are a ring shank that I'm firing with the gun, but these ones here are just a little bit longer and will just help make sure everything stays tight together, I think. It's probably overkill, I'm probably fine just to use this gun, but I may end up moving this with the forklift and get a little rammy with it. Oops. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and nail off the rest of these, and then I can nail the center as well. In fact, I might screw that, we'll see. Alright, so we've got that all nailed off, and I think I'm going to screw that middle just to be sure that I'm sucking that 2x6 up. Okay, so there you have it. Kind of lost my camera there for a little bit, but all you really missed is me firing 100 nails into the boards there, and it picked up again when I was finishing off this last little row of hand nailing. I also put a row of screws down the middle into those 2x6s. That takes all the flex, any flex out of that out. It's good and solid, so I think that's going to work well. So I'm going to give you a quick walk around, because I know on this camera you don't get to see a real good close-up of what I'm actually doing. So I'll just give you a little better look of what's going on. And the boards are kind of muddy and a little bit of twist. You can see one there, it's got a little bit of a twist to it. It's just a shed, so I'm not too concerned about that. It was all cull lumber, if you remember, so this is stuff that they were going to send away to auction or whatever because it was defective. And you can see I got the odd little bit of a gap, but for the most part they're pretty tight. And any that were any bigger really than that, I straightened the boards out on the saw so that we got it a little tighter. These are some of the ones that I cut on the saw to tighten it up. Okay, it gives you a better idea. Let's see, there's the 4x4. There's our brace underneath. So I hope you enjoyed the video, and if you did, even if you didn't, no, if you did, click the thumbs up just down here, and before you leave, subscribe to our channel for sure. Go check the channel out. We got a million things over there to see and lots for you to learn. So appreciate you watching.